every political party gives a lot of promises, X number of jobs, Y number of projects, many billions of investments, etc. Also, they come with a book of promises called Manifestos. We the people of India can question the government comes into power if they do not fulfill these promises. So now let's take the views of Dr.JP in the world of manifestos. Hello, sir.
Hello, Namartha.
Sir, recently Nyay, Patra, Sankalpa Patra. Both the manifestos of the major parties are released. What are your views on those?
There are two critical elements in a democracy in managing money. One is, how do you take care of the long-term collective needs of the society? That's the very purpose of government. Human society created government as an institution to fulfill the collective needs for the long-term good. At the same time, in a democracy, you also require to get the vote and carry the people with you. And therefore, a good democratic management and a good manifesto is about reconciling these two, the short-term individual welfare and the long-term collective good. That balancing is critical. And our manifestos anywhere in the world are meant for that. If you pay too much attention to short-term satisfaction, populism, instant gratification at the cost of the long-term good, that society, that country will perpetually be poor. If you only pay attention to the long-term good without taking care of the short-term needs, there may be immediate suffering on a large scale. It could have been easily prevented. If somebody is starving, if I don't give food, the person dies. I will take care of that also. And after some time, the political consensus required to make the long-term good happen, that may not be there. So balancing them both is very, very critical. And in that respect, some parties are making an effort to balance them. Several other parties have become reckless in the quest for the short-term vote. Instant gratification and short-term maximization have become the norms, disregarding the availability of resources, because ultimately all government is about money. How much money do you have? And what are you doing with money? And if I pretend as if money grows on trees, there is no limitation of resources, then I am lying to myself and to the rest of the society.
So, as you said, the BJP manifesto focuses mostly on existing freebies, continuation of that, along with the future growth potential till 2047. Whereas the other party, Nyay Patra, it focuses more on the freebies. So, what do you see, sir? Is this a clash of interests?
You're absolutely right. See, what's happening is, in line with what we discussed earlier, there are two approaches. One is distribution. What we have, we'll distribute to the poor in order to help them with the good intentions. The other is, while we do something to ameliorate the short-term pain, welfare, we also focus a lot on the future growth and wealth creation so that incomes rise. Because the only way out of poverty in the long term is skills and productivity, because every human being has the capacity to produce, has the brains. But the brains automatically will not lead to productivity unless you give skills, the ability to produce more efficiently. That is quality education and skills. Then creation of jobs by growing the economy, investment, innovation, competition, choice, security for your investments and your property, and therefore economy grows. When economy grows, in order to produce more and more, you create jobs. Therefore, skills with economic growth will give you jobs. Then the jobs will give you incomes. So education, skills, jobs, growth, income. This is the only route. Any other route is simply not available. It's a lie. And the second approach is balancing the growth with welfare, as I said. Mahatma Gandhi, in his talisman, said beautifully, he said, whenever you're in doubt, when you're in a public office, if you're in doubt as to whether to do a thing or not, You think of the poorest man in the farthest corner. He did not say, go and help him. He said, if what you do gives him a measure of control over his life and destiny, if it makes him self-reliant, then that is worth doing. This talisman we are forgetting in the country. So Congress party is substantially dependent on distribution, without even worrying about where the money is. For instance, they talked about 1 lakh rupees for every woman in a family, or for one woman in a poor family. Assuming there are 24 or 25 crore poor people in the country, 6 crore families, you're talking about 6 lakh crore rupees additional expenditure annually by that one project alone. And about loan waivers for the farm sector and maybe some other sectors. Not only that, they said they will actually constitute a permanent body to look at the requirement of loan waivers in future. So now you sort of institutionalized as a policy loan waivers. No credit system works like that. And probably there are about 24 lakh crores or so agricultural loans alone, apart from other small manufacturing and micro enterprises loans. And maybe outstanding loans are 10 or 12 lakh crores. I don't know the correct numbers. If even 60-70% of it is to be waived, it comes to another 6 or 7 lakh crores. Not only that, the credit system is destroyed. Once I know my loans will be waived, I will not repay. Once the lender knows that the loan will not be repaid, you will not give credit. The credit system, it is the timeliness and adequacy at a reasonable interest rate that matters. It's not free money that matters. Because the credit cycle runs only when you save, I save, it goes to a bank gives to people who need, they increase the economic activity, increase the incomes, repay, and I get some interest. And the economic activity grows, jobs are created, incomes rise. That is the way it works. It doesn't work like, you give money, I take it, and that's the end of the story. Then the cycle stops. Everybody knows that. It doesn't require genius. So this kind of reckless fiscal profligacy, a belief that distribution of money will solve the problems of poverty, it's a very dangerous one. Arvind Panagaria and his colleagues made a point, and several other economists made a point. It's a commonsensical point, a simple arithmetic. Because of the compounding effect of growth rates, even a difference between a 7% and 8% looks like the same growth rates. A 1% difference between 7 and 8% annual growth rate over 10 years means annual additional income for India will be total income for the country, the GDP, $600 billion or about 50 lakh crores between 7% growth rate and 8% growth rate. Supposing instead of 7%, you actually get 8% growth rate and therefore achieve 50 lakh crores of more production. Roughly about 18 to 20% of the tax monies you realize, union or states. That means about 9 to 10 lakh crores is going to the treasury. That much more money is available both for welfare and investment by just 1% difference. So if you give up on growth for short-term benefits, you are guaranteeing that future welfare is finished, poverty is perpetuated, and every day, even after all the welfare, the condition is not improved. People are forever dependent, and poverty will be distributed. Incomes will not rise. So, substantially, Congress has taken the distribution path, though they paid lip sympathy to wealth creation. They did mention, but they never really created a roadmap. They never really talked about a roadmap. And they never talked about where is the money. They never talked about fiscal discipline. Not even one word about it. BJP is trying to look at both. Both the short-term welfare is necessary, but balancing it with long-term economic growth impulse. To that extent, in economic management, I think it's very clear who is very thoughtful and looking into the future, who is short-sighted and looking into the temporary gain.
Sir, so in the celebration of elections for next 5 months, at the cost of celebration of democracy for the next 5 years, is this political parties waging a war for self-interest or for nation's interest? Do you see any growth?
I cannot condone the idea that there is a national interest in fiscal profligacy. Public money is very precious. It is people's hard-earned money, your money, my money. If a laborer is buying any goods and any commodities, laborer is paying a tax. If you and I are buying something, we are paying tax. It is our hard-earned tax money that's collected by the government. If that money does not go to grow the economy, to build the infrastructure, improve our amenities, give us quality education and healthcare, if it simply goes to distributing the money, if government becomes a clerk to disburse money, we don't require government for that. If government becomes an ATM, we don't require a government for that. We require a government because the people who are elected on our behalf make decisions to determine our future, improve the quality of our life, create basic amenities, fulfill the collective needs, grow the economy, make life better for us.
Yes.
Instead, they become merely distributing agencies. I'll collect the money, I pay salaries to employees and others, we enjoy lavish lifestyles at the cost of the exchequer, because most people in government want very lavish life at the cost of the people. Then, of course, because we're spending so much money in elections, we swindle money. Otherwise, how else are elections sustainable? Election costs sustainable. Then, we borrow heavily and we distribute the money competently. This cannot be the governance model. Never. It is a destructive model.
Sir, in 2024 elections, there is a unique feature. Manifestos are named as guarantees. You are the one who actually started this trend. What is your take on this, sir?
So when I came up with the 50 guarantees, granular detail, everything was about really improving the quality of life and creating wealth. In health alone, we came up with 4 or 5 specific guarantees. Education, 4 or 5 specific guarantees. So it's not a bland statement, I'll improve it. It's about how I improve it and what is the roadmap. To give that confidence, we use the expression guarantees. No, it's good that parties increasingly are taking at least some part of the manifesto seriously. It is not true that parties ignore the manifestos. That was the case in the past. Somebody wrote, the pro forma, they used to produce something and somebody released it and they forgot all about it. Whereas the element of manifesto, which is about individual short-term benefits, welfare, is now taken very seriously by most political parties. But the long-term public good and growth and improvement of rule of law or quality of life, they are not taking that seriously. Because welfare is what they believe gives them votes, short-term maximization. And welfare is measurable. I give you 1,000 rupees a month, I give you something else, it's very measurable. Whereas I improve overall quality of life, I improve something else, it's harder to, of course there is a way of measuring, there is a measuring, but it's harder to communicate and measure. And anyway, it requires hard work and real good policy and honest government. We don't have that. So the welfare part of it is now increasingly becoming guarantees, and generally parties, when they make that promise, they try to deliver. Until it becomes fiscally unviable, until the state or the country collapses. But the real things that are required for the larger collective good, they are by and large not taken seriously yet. Except, I think now Vajpayee government took seriously, it is the economic management part of it they took seriously. Now Modi government is taking that part seriously. But even all these, any party, they have not taken seriously the quality of education, quality of healthcare, rule of law, political reform to make political parties democratic in management, or electoral system change to really remove the malpractices and enable the rise of very competent and public-spirited leaders to ethical means. All this, they're not interested, even now. So there are 3 levels. Only level 1, the short-term instant gratification, they're taken seriously. Some parties are taking the long-term economic management seriously, but the overall improvement of governance and the polity, there's hardly any seriousness in any political party.
So, as you said, there is still work in progress yet. So, if you happen to be an architect of a party's manifesto, what are the components do you think which should include?
Obviously, the first principle has to be economic management in a fast-moving technology age. Growth rates are incredibly important. Growth rate is not everything, but the number, growth rate encompasses many things. Even if growth rate does not always necessarily lead to better outcomes for the people, For instance, if there is a forest fire, growth rate actually increases. In order to clean up the forest and plant further forestation, you are actually spending money. What we lost is not counted in growth rate. If there is a cyclone or a flood, then growth rate actually increases. Houses may be destroyed, lives may be shattered, but you are now investing more money in rebuilding the houses or whatever. Growth rate goes up. So growth rate is not always the most accurate indicator. But despite these deficiencies, growth rate is a number which probably approximates best about what's happening in society, to understand that. So growth rate is incredibly important, though we have to also take other parameters. Whatever it takes to enhance the growth and to balance the budgets, to make sure that the borrowed money does not go towards current expenditure. There's no fiscal profligacy, and not only that, to build the rules across the whole country, because federal government in India has the obligation to build such rules and framework for the whole country. Because if countries go bankrupt, if states go bankrupt, then the government of India will also go bankrupt. If one state goes bankrupt, other states also are affected. So fiscal responsibility, focus on long-term growth along with short-term welfare, investment-oriented policies, hospitality investment, ease of doing business, infrastructure, and economic growth. The second big area would be quality of education outcomes. More money is not required. Broadly, within the money we are spending, we can significantly improve the outcomes. We are among the worst in the world in terms of educational outcomes. It's a tragedy. And without good education accessible to everybody, you cannot end poverty. You cannot give everybody a chance to fulfill their potential in life. It's a myth. You cannot end discrimination. So poor education is guaranteeing inequalities. Many people are talking about Thomas Piketty, even Congress party mentioned Thomas Piketty. Inequality. But the way to end inequality is quality education. And our political response to this is another right to education act, another right to healthcare act, right to, as if you know, the constitution prevented you from giving good education. Right to education act did not guarantee good education. It guaranteed more expenditure without good education. Real education, quality. Healthcare, we must spend money as well as get outcomes. Redesigning the healthcare system, quality healthcare, that is the second one. Because without the skills, you cannot partake in the economic activity and come out of poverty, enhance incomes. The third is spread the benefits of economic growth outside the big cities. So small towns. In my judgment, about 3,000 to 5,000 small towns need to be promoted in India. Just build infrastructure, have town planning architecture, then private sector will come in with a lot of things. So that in situ urbanization, local migration from agriculture to non-agriculture, villages to urban areas, not distant migration to very forbidding big cities, but local migration to small towns with low level of skills, that is critical. Without that, you cannot really urbanize India, you cannot really transform the agricultural sector to non-agricultural sector, and you cannot end poverty. And if everybody has to go to distant big cities like Mumbai or Chennai or Delhi, eking out precarious livelihood, then life becomes unbearable. Incomes are very low, skills are very low, productivity is very low. In a big city, you have no support system. With that income, you cannot survive. You live abysmal lives. And you have seen what happened during the COVID lockdown, when reverse migration took place. The pain they endured. It's a sinful thing. Yes, people with high skills will still migrate to big cities. So be it. Big cities have an advantage of cluster effect. But that's not the only place where people should live. People should be able to live in urban areas. Abdul Kalam, President Kalam used to say, providing urban amenities in rural areas, Pura he used to call it. But basically in situ urbanization, in my judgment, that's not being examined by the economists and the policymakers and thinkers, let alone political parties. I believe it's a critical thing. Then agricultural transformation, not MSP. MSP is a bad idea. Legalizing MSP or sanctifying it by law is a very bad idea. You're producing something for which there's no demand. Yes, on a temporary basis, if there's a crisis, you can procure, give some help. But you cannot legally entitle them to sell at a price higher than the market price without a commensurate demand in society. You must move the whole system towards producing high-value crops, value addition subsequently, have policies to ensure the best possible rate of price is available to the farmer. storage, pledge loans, and foreign trade policies. Congress party mentioned that one element, foreign trade and trade policies. Foreign trade policies in a manner that the price is maintained well. But Congress party actually acted against it until many of us fought and removed the export ban on rice, for instance. Again, the current government imposed an export ban on rice. With great difficulty, current government imposed import duty on palm oil. But again, they removed it in the name of Ukraine war. So you can't have policies like that. Agriculture. Ultimately, you must go for value addition. You must fulfill our potential in agriculture. Then you require to look at the bigger governance issues. Decentralization of power, genuine decentralization of the accountability. Political parties, democratization. As is being discussed, family rule, individual-centric rule. Parties have become private estates, political fiefdoms, jamindaris. It's absurd to call them democratic institutions. We have to democratize them by law. The federal law is required and to enforce that. And finally, electoral system. All this election is a classic case of sometimes operation success, patient dead. 25-30 crores per an assembly constituency is not uncommon in Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu and several other states. For a Lok Sabha seat, about 70, 80, 100 crores is not uncommon in many parts of India. For a desperately poor country, these are absurd numbers. And to think that that's going to help the economy or the polity or ensure honesty in government, we are living, it's a pipe dream. We have to create an electoral system, alternative electoral system, where illegitimate money does not play a role. The right kind of people, honest, competent, public-spirited people, they can enter politics in a hospitable environment and they can rise ethically and rationally. Doesn't matter which party it is. We need that. We don't need carpetbaggers. We don't need every fellow who made some money in speculation saying, I will be next MLA or MP. That's what's happening in India. There are some very good public-spirited people in all parties in the country. But the determinants of election success are not your competence and your public spirit or your compassion or the qualities of leadership. It is money, it is caste, it is pedigree. You cannot improve democracy. So there are various orders and we have to address all these challenges. And once a party really is committed to these things with understanding and depth, that is when our democracy is safe and our future is safe.
Yes, sir. Totally understood, sir. Ultimately, I think it's, as in your words, I think it's the change comes from the people because of we the people. We always respect people who make decisions for the future of the nation, but also we can even question the governments which won't fulfill the manifestos and manifestos only for election propaganda. We the people should find a difference between these two. Thank you, sir.